Imagine a Hollywood star at the height of his fame, adored by millions, only to be found brutally murdered in his apartment, his life ending in a scene more shocking than any script he ever read. That was Bob Crane, the charming Colonel Hogan, from Hogan's Heroes. For decades, his death has remained one of Hollywood's darkest unsolved mysteries. Was it jealousy, betrayal, or something far more sinister? New revelations suggest the truth may finally be within reach, but it isn't what fans hoped for. Stay with us, because this story is about to take a chilling turn. Before television stardom, Bob Crane had already carved a name for himself on the radio in Los Angeles, known as the Man of 1,000 Voices. He hosted a wildly popular morning show on KNX radio, where he interviewed legends like Marilyn Monroe, Bob Hope, and Charlton Heston. His quick improvisation made him a Hollywood favorite, and even Walt Disney once called him the fastest wit in the West. His radio success soon opened doors to acting. In 1961, Carl Reiner appeared on Crane's program and later offered him a guest role on The Dick Van Dyke Show as a philandering husband. That small part snowballed into bigger opportunities, including a recurring role as a happy-go-lucky dentist on The Donna Reed Show. By 1965, his agent handed him the script for a new series called Hogan's Heroes. At first, Crane thought it was a war drama, but to his surprise, it was a comedy about Allied prisoners outsmarting their bumbling German captors against all odds. The show became a massive hit. Crane's performance as Colonel Hogan was magnetic. He earned Emmy nominations, appeared on lunchboxes and magazine covers, and quickly became one of the most recognizable faces on television. For 6 seasons, from 1965 to 1971, Bob Crane lived the Hollywood dream. But fame has a way of magnifying flaws, and behind the charm and quick wit, a darker obsession was growing. Crane's interest in photography began innocently. He loved experimenting with cameras, taking portraits, and testing new video equipment. But over time, it turned into something else entirely. The turning point came when his Hogan's Heroes co-star Richard Dawson introduced him to John Henry Carpenter, a video equipment salesman for Sony. Carpenter was well connected in Hollywood and provided Crane with cutting-edge technology. The two quickly became inseparable. Crane often introduced Carpenter as his manager, and together they frequented bars and nightclubs. Crane's fame drew attention, and the pair became known for recording their encounters with women consensual. According to Crane's family, but deeply troubling to many of his colleagues, this obsession strained Crane's personal life. His marriage to Terzian, his high school sweetheart and the mother of his 3 children, ended in divorce. He remarried, this time to Patricia Olson, better known to Hogan's Heroes fans as Sigrid Valdez. But the same issues followed him, even while filming Disney's 1973 family film Super Dad. Crane's behavior raised eyebrows, damaging his reputation in Hollywood. By the late 1970s, his star power had faded. He was no longer the TV icon he once was, instead finding steady but less glamorous work in stage productions. Privately, Crane confided in friends that he wanted out. He wanted to cut ties with Carpenter, clean up his life, and start fresh. But time was running out. By June 1978, Bob Crane was living in Scottsdale, Arizona, performing in a stage comedy called Beginner's Luck at the Windmill Dinner Theater. At 49 years old, just 2 weeks shy of his 50th birthday, he seemed ready for a new beginning. But on June 29th, everything changed when Crane failed to show up for a lunch meeting. His co-star Victoria and Barry went to his apartment. Inside, she found a nightmare: Crane's lifeless body in bed. His head had been brutally bludgeoned, likely with a camera tripod. An electrical cord lay nearby, though it wasn't the cause of death. What puzzled detectives most was the lack of forced entry. Nothing was stolen. Whoever killed him was someone Crane trusted or someone who entered while he slept. All eyes turned to John Carpenter. He had flown into Phoenix days earlier and spent time with Crane the night before the murder. Witnesses reported that the two even watched some of their private recordings together. Carpenter claimed he returned to his motel, but inconsistencies in his story raised suspicion. At the scene, police uncovered cameras, tripods, and stacks of tapes evidence that revealed Crane's secret double life. The beloved star was suddenly recast in headlines as a man consumed by obsession. For his family, it was devastating. The Scottsdale Police Department in 1978 wasn't equipped for a case of this magnitude. They lacked a homicide division, and crucial mistakes were made at the crime scene. Evidence wasn't properly secured. Friends and family entered the apartment before it was sealed, contaminating it with fingerprints and footprints. Even so, suspicion remained squarely on Carpenter. Blood smears found in his rental car matched Crane's blood type. But without DNA testing still years away, this evidence wasn't enough. With no murder weapon and no fingerprints, prosecutors declined to press charges. The case went cold. More than a decade later, in 1990, investigators reopened the files. Advances in DNA testing offered new hope. They discovered a photograph of Carpenter's rental car interior showing what appeared to be a biological fragment. That clue was enough for prosecutors to act. In 1992, John Carpenter was arrested and charged with Crane's murder. The trial began in 1994 and played out like a Hollywood drama. The prosecution argued that Carpenter, angry over Crane's plan to cut him out, had lashed out. They pointed to blood evidence, the men's troubled friendship, and testimony from Crane's son Scotty, who said his father had spoken often about ending ties with Carpenter. The defense countered that the evidence was flimsy. The biological sample had gone missing, the crime scene was compromised, and the tripod theory was speculation. They suggested other possible suspects, including those who may have held grudges against Crane. In the end, the jury wasn't convinced. John Carpenter was acquitted in 1994 and maintained his innocence until his death in 1998. Officially, the case returned to the cold files still unsolved for Crane's family. The trial brought no closure. Instead, it reopened wounds. His eldest son Robert recalled the pain of watching his father's most private life paraded in headlines. The man who had once made America laugh was now remembered mostly for scandal. Another son, Robert David Crane, voiced suspicion about Patricia Olson, Crane's second wife. In his will, Bob had left everything to her, cutting out his children and first wife. Prosecutors never considered her a suspect, but the decision deepened family bitterness. Meanwhile, Scotty worked to defend his father's reputation, insisting the women in the recordings were willing participants. Still, the media rarely offered nuance. Hollywood, too, distanced itself. Though hundreds attended his funeral, including stars like Patty Duke, Carol O'Connor, and John Astin, in the years that followed, his name faded. Reruns of Hogan's Heroes declined, and Crane was remembered more for tragedy than for talent. For his children, this was the cruelest cut of all. The man they knew was complex, flawed, yes, but also warm, funny, and gifted. Instead of being remembered for the joy he brought to millions, he became frozen in time as the subject of an unsolved crime. Even after Carpenter's acquittal, investigators never fully gave up. In 2016, Phoenix reporter John Hook gained permission to retest the remaining blood samples from Carpenter's rental car. This time, analysts found two male DNA profiles. One belonged to an unidentified man, while the other was too degraded to be conclusive. Worse, the test consumed all remaining evidence, closing the door on future testing. For Crane's family, it was the final blow. His son Robert, who published Crane, Sex, Celebrity, and My Father's Unsolved Murder in 2015, admitted closure would never come. It's like living in a constant fog, he said. Scotty, too, fought against Hollywood's portrayal of his father when the 2002 film Autofocus depicted Crane in a sensational way. Scotty publicly criticized it as inaccurate. He even launched a website, bobcrane.com, to preserve documents and share a fuller picture of his father's life. But the damage was already done. For most of the public, Bob Crane's name is now inseparable from scandal and tragedy. Yet beyond the headlines and the mystery, Bob Crane was once a man who brought joy to millions. He was a gifted improviser, a pioneering radio host, and the Emmy-nominated star of a groundbreaking sitcom. And so, The mystery of Bob Crane's tragic end still casts a long shadow over Hollywood. Was it betrayal, obsession, or a secret that died with him? We may never truly know. Share your thoughts below, and if you enjoyed this story, hit like, subscribe, and join us for more untold Hollywood mysteries. Thanks for watching.